Hey guys, Lady Lee here from ladyleeshome.com, and in this video I want to show you how I turn my goat milk into feta cheese. This is a really simple cheese to make, and you can make it with any kind of milk. You can use cow's milk, you can even use store-bought milk. If you're using store-bought milk, you will have to add calcium chloride, which is an ingredient that we do not use or add when we use raw milk. This is raw milk from my goat, so I won't be adding it, but I will list all of the ingredients and the recipe in the notes below for both ways, if you use store-bought or raw milk. And on the blog you can find a step-by-step picture tutorial with all the links to the equipment and the ingredients. Let's jump right in. I added 4 quarts of raw goat milk into my stainless steel pot. When you are making cheese, you want to make sure that you're using stainless steel pot and tools. And the temperature of the milk when you add it to the pot doesn't matter. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set it on the stovetop, and I have a cheese thermometer here. I want to bring this milk to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to set the temperature of the stove to about medium to medium high, somewhere in between there. This is not a good time to go and fold laundry. You really want to stay close to the milk so you don't miss the temperature, and to stir it constantly so the bottom doesn't burn. Okay, so I have my slotted spoon here, and I will bring it to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. It can take a little bit of time, especially if your milk came from the fridge and it's cold. It is important to keep stirring and watching the temperature so you don't miss it. Once I get to 86 degrees, I'll bring it back here and I'll show you the next step. The milk has reached 86 degrees Fahrenheit. That only took a little bit of time because it was almost at room temperature to begin with. Next step, what we're going to do next is to add culture. So I bought this Feta culture from Cultures for Health and used it once before, and it was great. There are other sources on the links to other sources on the blog for where to buy Feta culture. You can also use mesophilic culture if you can't find Feta culture, but this is Feta culture for Feta cheese. I'm going to use, it comes in baggies like that. There are a few of them, 4 or 5, I think 4 of them inside here. And this is how it looks. This is the culture. If you're buying culture from somewhere that it comes in like a little bag, but not divided into bags like that, or in a little container, you want to use for a gallon of milk about 1/16 a teaspoon, which is a pinch. Okay, so we're just needing a little bit. Over here with this culture, the direction is to use the whole bag for a gallon of milk. So I'm just gonna use that. I am letting it kind of drop into the milk, and I want to mix right away to help it melt into the milk. And it should be easy for it to melt right into the milk. Just mix it well. All right, that's it. Now I'm going to cover the pot, and I'm going to cover it also with a fuzzy baby blanket, just because it's kind of a chilly day and I want to make sure that my milk stays at 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm covering it with the blanket, and we're going to let it rest for about an hour. It's been about an hour, and it's time to uncover the pot and add rennet, which will help us coagulate the milk. When you uncover the pot and look at your milk, it will look like nothing happened, and that is okay. So let's do this. Next step is the rennet. And I'm using animal rennet. I got it from New England cheese making supplies. So there are, again, different resources and places to get rennet, and you have all the links on the blog. I am adding 1/2 teaspoon of rennet into 1/4 cup of cool water, and it's got to be non-chlorinated water. Mix that, and then I'm going to add the water with the rennet to the milk, and I want to stir right away. Stir it right into the milk. And that's it. Now we're going to cover the pot again and cover it with the blanket again to keep it warm. I think I said before 85 Fahrenheit. I meant 86, but really it doesn't matter. We just want to keep it warm like this, and we're going to let it rest for another hour. All right, so another hour passed, and now it is time for us to cut the curds. To do that, I'm going to use just a big icing spatula. You can also use a knife for this, or you can use a cheese curd knife, which is like a special cheese making tool, but really you don't have to have it. Just an icing knife can do. I will bring the camera over so you can see what's happening in the pot, and I'll show you how I cut the curds. To check if the milk has completely coagulated, you can put the curds knife in, and you can see that I can just cut the curds like that. This liquid is the whey, and we will get rid of it in a minute when we hang the curds. Okay, so I'm gonna start cutting first this way. And then this way. And then I'm going to cut on a diagonal. All right, now we're going to let the curds rest like this for 5 minutes before we mix them. After 5 minutes, we're going to take the slotted spoon and just mix the curds a little bit to move them around. You want to grab them from the bottom and bring them up. And just go around like this. All right, we're going to cover the pot again, and I'm going to let it rest another 5 minutes before I mix the curds again, and I'm going to repeat this 3 times. So this is the last time that I'm going to mix the curds. Again, I did it 3 times. So mix them, let them rest for 5 minutes, mix, let them rest for 5 minutes, and then mix again. And you can see that they are much thicker than before, and there's much more whey, and that's exactly what we want. So we're going to mix this one more time, give it 5 more minutes to rest, and then we're going to hang the curds. I have a strainer over a large mixing bowl over here, and the bowl will catch the whey for me. You can use the whey a million different ways. It's great to replace it for water in bread recipes. I love just giving it to my dog. It's really good for her. and you can really use it many different ways. Over the strainer, I'm gonna put a cheesecloth, and let me give you a little tip here. Your local Walmart has these flour sack towels, which are a million times better and cheaper than a cheesecloth. So no need to get a cheesecloth. These are really, really great for any kind of cheese making, and they are available. I get mine at Walmart. It comes in a package of like 5 of them. All right, we also need some string, or I'm using yarn here. And what we're going to do is just take the curds and the whey. This can get a little messy. You can take the slotted spoon and kind of help it fall into the strainer a little bit slower so it doesn't splash all over. All right, and now we are going to collect the sides. If you don't want to save the whey, you can do this over the sink. Just put the strainer over the sink. But the whey is really great to use for in many, many different ways. All right, we collect the sides and tie it. And I'm gonna take this and hang it over the bowl to drain for at least 6 hours. 6 hours might be enough. You can leave it overnight, you know, 6 to 12, even 18 hours if you have something else that you need to do. It doesn't really matter. You'll see that it will shrink and all the way will come out into the bowl, come down into the bowl. And after that, I'll show you how to cut the cheese and salt it. But this is pretty much almost the end of it. It's been a few hours and you can see what we are left with. It's kind of harder and there's no more whey dripping down. So we can take this cheese out of the cheesecloth. And look at this. It's a beautiful, pretty big ball of cheese. All right, so now we need to salt it. I am cutting it into about slabs that are about 1 inch. And I'm using kosher salt. You can use sea salt, cheese salt, or kosher salt, or in other words, non-iodized salt to salt the cheese. This is just a plastic container that I can put in the fridge, and I'm adding the cheese into the container, then salting this, and you just salt it to taste. I usually use probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons, but you can do it as however you want, and you can also add salt later if it's not salty enough for you. The salt will cause the cheese to get a little firmer, and you'll see that there'll be more whey forming at the bottom of the container. So I'm gonna put this in the fridge now, and it is kind of ready to eat, but it is better to let this cheese sit for 2 to 3 days in the fridge before you use it. And during those 2 to 3 days, if I see any whey on the bottom of the container, I'll just go in the sink and kind of empty the container from the whey. That's it. That's how you make feta. Now, this is a lot of cheese. So what you can do is preserve some of it in olive oil. You can cube it and put it in a jar, add rosemary or thyme or garlic or whatever spices and seasonings you want, and top it with olive oil and keep it this way. Or you can freeze it. So this is some of the cheese that I have in the freezer. This one I wrapped with just a plastic food wrap, and I keep it in a Ziploc bag. Vacuum sealing it is also a really good way to keep it in the freezer. And whenever you want a piece of cheese, you can just take it out and put it in a container, let it thaw at room temperature or in the fridge, and use it. That's it. Again, all the instructions and the ingredients and the measurements and links to resources and sources are on the blog, in the blog post, and I'll link to that below. I hope this video was helpful. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and like, and I will see you again next time.